Hey, I'm Becca. This is my blog, Damsel in Some Sweats. So for the past 2-ish years, I've been in a group on Facebook, and it's like a breastfeeding support circle, kind of. And a lot of the moms in there have encountered allergies, specifically dairy allergies, and they're breastfeeding, and they don't really know how to handle it, alternatives, what to do, so they end up giving up. And so this is my sister January. She has a son who is now 7, and he has had severe dairy allergies. And so I thought she could really be helpful, lots of information that could, help in someone else's breastfeeding journey, or just in general that has a child with these allergies. So tell us, how old was Jonas when you found out he had these allergies, and kind of how you discovered?
So, I came home and was really excited about breastfeeding, and every time I fed him, it was like projectile vomit everywhere. So, we immediately, it was not easy.
Right.
But I didn't know. I just thought it was normal, and we finally got to the 6-month mark, and it was time to try some real food. So we got some yogurt, which was really fun because I was really excited to give him some yogurt, and he gobbled it down. He loved it. He thought it was fantastic. And we got home, and it was time to get a nap, and he just kept crying and crying and crying. And I was like, what's going on with him? So I go in to check him, and his eyes are completely swollen shut. His lips are huge, and I, of course, freaked out.
Right.
So we took him to the doctor, and they were like, what are you doing here? Go to the ER. So, dairy allergy, we had an allergy. Well, we took him to a specialist, and they wanted to run a lot of tests. And if you know anything about allergy testing, they do a bunch of, kind of invasive testing on them. And we just wanted to think about it and see what our options were.
Right.
And so we had a friend that lived in Atlanta, and we were connected with a doctor that took a little bit different approach. And so it's been fantastic meeting her and learning how to deal with allergies. So he also is affected by other foods, and meeting her and getting to know his body and how the foods that how the foods affected him was great. I mean, it gave us this insight into him, and that we could correct it, and I could still nurse.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me I know he's allergic to dairy, but tell me about the other things that affect his body.
So, with anaphylactic reaction, your body takes in that allergen, and it completely pushes antibodies. It doesn't want that food. It thinks it's bad. So, that affects your liver. So it backs your liver up, and the more you're exposed to that allergen, the worse the reaction gets. So the first time might be swollen. You have a little bit of time to get to the doctor. The second time might be immediate,
Right.
You need your EpiPen. So, we thought that was going to be, pretty much standard response. But when we met with the doctor, she told us, we can get that, kind of detox him from that, get some of that leftover whatever that's going on with his liver, kind of clear that up. But then we needed to avoid gluten and sugar. And with a 6-month-old, that wasn't that hard, but with me nursing, I was also having to avoid that stuff, and that was very hard. So we stayed in Atlanta with her for about a month, just seeing her a couple times a week to help, get his body back down to, square one. And then I really just started avoiding those things so that I could still nurse him, and of course we didn't feed him those types of foods.
Right. Okay, so we know yogurt is what triggered that initial reaction, and we know you were breastfeeding, so tell us kind of how you did a little, but expand a little into how his allergies affected your diet because you were breastfeeding.
Yeah. Well, everything, people have all these different things, don't eat so-and-so while you're breastfeeding, it's going to be awful, or don't, avoid this or avoid that. But really, when I started avoiding dairy, I could tell a difference in the way he was nursing and the way he was gaining weight, and he stopped throwing up. So clearly that stuff was passing through my breast milk, and he was having a hard time with it, and I just didn't know it. So I think, like, if they are major, like, if they're having major reactions to your breast milk, there's probably something in there that they don't like, their bodies don't like. And it doesn't mean it's bad for them necessarily, but it just means at this, like, every human body's different. They might have a problem with a specific thing, and if you can figure that out and avoid it, this is really good. Yeah, really.
So you guys had to cut out cheese, milk, sour cream.
Yeah. So dairy, a lot of people don't realize that, but dairy is not just
everything.
Milk. It is
everything.
It's in so many things, and it's milk, it's butter, cream cheese, sour cream, cottage cheese, the host of wonderful, like, spreads and cheeses and pizza, and it's dairy. Just that whole group is so lovely. I hate to lose it, but really, once we knew it was dairy, our trouble then was not only avoiding those things, but avoiding whey powder, which is in things that you don't think of, or some different kind of varieties of milk, or in powdered things like taco seasoning. And that's not the first thing that comes to mind when I think I'm going to buy something in a bag and dump it in the hamburger.
All the labels.
Yeah, we became insane label readers, and really still are, and we've even had some points now that we get food and we fix it for him, and he goes, "Oh, my throat feels funny." And I look at the label of a food that I had previously checked the label on, and they had changed the recipe, and now it has milk in it. So that's a challenge, but really in the beginning, when they tell you, cut out dairy, and then gluten and sugar also affect him. So it means that it taxes his system.
Right.
And so then everything that he's exposed to after that is a real allergen to him makes it worse. So he might get red if he had milk dropped on his skin, but if he's had gluten and sugar and his body's just overtaxed, maybe he's getting sick, or like a cold, then he's going to have hives and welts, and his body's just going to react worse to that. So trying to keep his diet clean, and as a nursing mom, attempting to keep your diet, I mean, I know you're starving to death. You want to eat everything in sight, including the table.
Especially
and
so you're nursing, because...
Yeah. So it's hard. Milk products have a lot of calories in them, so it's really great to have that yummy, like, comfort food, and makes you feel good, and it just is hard sometimes to cut that out.
Right.
But we probably lost, like, the whole family when we first had to do this, like 10 or 12 pounds immediately, because you cut gluten, dairy, and sugar out of your diet.
Sugar is in everything.
Yeah.
Sugar's in everything.
Yeah, you're eating, like, nothing.
Yeah.
Meat and vegetables.
Yeah.
So, but I will say that it was, although we went cold turkey, we had to just cut it out because, well, my husband didn't have to do that, but he was going to, support the nursing mom.
Except when he's in the closet.
Yeah,
shoving pizza.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, it's a fear thing. I know we talked a little bit earlier, but it's a fear thing too. Like, you're terrified to eat anything that might have that in it because of his reaction too. So that probably helped. I mean, cold turkey was hard because your body is addicted to that stuff.
Yes.
And then you just cut it out.
Yes. And that fear did help in that situation because I was so afraid to give him anything that would hurt him. I was so afraid I was going to mess up and give him something or whatever. So that made me just not care about my deprivation.
Right.
I was so focused on just getting that out of my diet.
Right.
The sugar was harder and the gluten was harder, but I knew that was, something that he was going to have to live with pretty much. Well, we were told that maybe he would grow out of it. He's 7 and he's still not. But he does have to he makes a lot of, I think of them as sacrifices in eating,
Right.
but I don't think he thinks of them as that because he's grown
It's
up.
all he's ever known.
Right. He's grown up with that diet.
So dairy and gluten is in almost everything. So I want you to talk about, because I know it's been 6.5 years, talk about your journey, the process of finding foods that your family could eat, and what, in the beginning, kind of what you did versus what you do now.
Yeah, in the beginning, it was really difficult because we live in a small town, and even though we had, you can drive an hour and a half and find something, there just wasn't a ton of stuff on the market that was
Right.
gluten-free and dairy-free, and, it was just harder, but I would get online and I would try to mix, my own flours and stuff to come up with a gluten-free thing. And we eventually found almond milk, and I don't think it could have been, we just had to kind of experiment. I think originally it might have been rice milk that I tried.
I don't remember almond milk being as available as it is now.
But his very first birthday cake, we had just 6 months prior found out about this, and I'm going to be, I still want him to have all this stuff that we have just like we do, but it can't have dairy and gluten. So, I'm making this, what I think is a fantastic birthday cake, and he takes one bite of, blows his candle out, takes one bite of it, and just, pushes it away, and, ooh, he doesn't want it. So, that was kind of a fail. But as the years went on, I experimented more, which is a little bit difficult, because when you have kids that don't know all their food choices, and then you're feeding them foods that you're trying to experiment with that don't taste like what you think they should, and it's just kind of like you throw it up in the air and it falls down.
And toddlers don't want to eat anything.
No,
anyway.
they don't. And so John he was really, I think, an exception to the rule. I found that out after I had my second one, but he would eat carrot sticks, and he liked tomatoes, and he would eat eggs, and I did have he loved all fruit. So I did have, fruit too we had to limit.
Right.
He couldn't have a ton of fruit because that's still sugar for his body. So as far as in the beginning, it was hard, and I think you have to give yourself some, grace when you're dealing with that, because you can't expect to get it overnight. You're going to be hungry. I'm sure Jonas was hungry, because you can. And that's another thing. Gluten, they have calories.
Right.
Dairy, high calories.
Yes.
Very filling. But then you start going to meat and vegetables, and you have to eat a week's worth of food in 2 days to get the same amount of calories. So that was really hard too. And I know, I felt bad before, thinking he didn't get enough food. I think he's hungry.
Right.
But he's okay. He's not starving. He's not anorexic.
Super healthy
or anything. So, we just learned, and as the years went on, people became more aware of health, more health conscious about gluten, or more aware, I guess, that people had allergies. I don't know. It was only 6 years ago. I know that was out there.
Well, now so many places accommodate to one or the other most of the time.
Yeah.
Because not necessarily because of allergies, just because people's diet has changed. They choose to eat that way.
Right. And and so in the stores now, we can find our almond milk, and we can find vegan butter, which has been a lifesaver. It's so hard to cook when you don't have a good butter substitute.
Right.
And we use Earth Balance, and it's fantastic. I can cook everything. It substitutes. I can bake with it. I can saute with it. It's like a cooking show. It's great. I love it. But recently we've gotten vegan chocolate chips in our town. So used to I was having to drive an hour to get them, and now I can get them here.
Right.
And that is a relief. It's a blessing when you can go to the store and actually find things that your kids can eat.
Right.
And after, I cried the first Valentine's Day, we found Lagusta chocolates, and it's a web-based. Well, I think they have a store in Seattle or something, but it's a web-based retailer for chocolate candies and stuff. And all of their stuff is vegan, and pretty much all of it. And I just cried the first time that he got a Valentine's-shaped heart with these chocolates in them. And it just, you take that stuff for granted. You can go to the store and get that, and everyone can eat it, but he couldn't, and he went years without it
Right.
until I found it, a couple years ago. But it's a treat for him. But I will say that he doesn't. I mean, he likes that kind of stuff,
Right.
but he doesn't act like he misses it all that much too if he goes without it.
Okay, so tell me about restaurants. How is that for you guys? When you go out
So
to eat?
those have been scary, and we try to go to places that make the food from scratch. They don't order in a bunch of food and like prepackaged, because then even if they want to make something to accommodate you, they can't,
Right.
because like it's already pre-breaded
pre-made,
or
yeah.
it's whatever. It's already in a thing, but. One of our, we always say, our child has a severe dairy allergy. We always try to be really kind about it and very understanding, because when people are in a restaurant, they're busy, and they don't, although I'm sure all restaurants want to accommodate food allergies, they're afraid because of cross-contamination. We've had that happen before. But they don't always understand when we say dairy allergy, so we have to be real specific.
What
like,
all that includes.
no butter, no milk, no
Right.
sour cream, and we do try to be really kind about it and really understanding. And if they say they can't do it, I mean, there have been many a times when we've either taken food for him because we've been so scared, or we've gone to like the grocery store and gotten deli meat and vegetables and things for him and brought it to the restaurant. Of course, they don't mind when you tell them that your child has an allergy, but learning what restaurants are friendly to allergy people is a big one.
Yeah, I know. Like, what was it? Macaroni Grill had like a gluten-free
Yes.
or menu for people that did have those allergies.
Yeah,
that you
well,
could order.
yeah, and they had that whole menu, and it had milk, dairy, gluten.
Right, and it told you what was in everything.
Yeah,
That was
it was fantastic. Another place that is always great to us is Texas Roadhouse.
Right.
They make everything from scratch, so it's easy for them to say, okay, we're not going to put
They didn't
butter
make
in the
rolls
vegetables.
without
They
butter.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. They're fantastic.
Good.
So yeah, fine. And knowing that you can go to a restaurant and ask for an allergy menu, especially as a mom, even just a mom, you're trying to avoid that stuff. Don't be afraid to say, do you have an allergy menu, or are there things that you can always, if it's a new restaurant, I always ask for chef recommendations. Like, can you just ask the chef if there are dishes that he would prefer to make, or can make without dairy, because the
Right.
chef knows
What
he can and can't do, and that sometimes makes it easier, because Jonas is pretty open to all foods, so
Right.
there's not a lot of foods that he won't eat as long as they're safe for him.
Okay, so now that Jonas is 7, tell us about how he deals with limited eating or menus.
He's grown up this way, so I think it would be a lot harder now if we had to revert back to a no dairy lifestyle. But since, he's ever known our house, we've never had milk in our refrigerator. It's always been